They call high blood pressure, or in medical language, hypertension, called the silent killer because for so long, until it reaches a really severe level, there are almost no symptoms and you can't feel it. And even if you can't feel it, that pressure that is pushing against the blood vessels, causing damage over time, and it can lead to significant trouble for us. Body is compensating and compensating, keeping us from realizing the true danger. And today we are going to dive into the ways that fasting process can bring health and healing to this blood pressure process. I say take the pressure off, try to silence the silent killer. That's what we want to do. Bring health and healing. This is the process. So whether you are already dealing with high blood pressure, you're looking to take the pressure off, or you are here trying to do everything that you can do to make sure that you never have to deal with it, I say welcome. I'm glad you're here. Stick around. I'm going to break down some science for you, some physiology in the body of how fasting can actually intervene in this process and stop it. And then get into the mindset that can really make all the difference. Grab a coffee, grab a tea with me, settle in. If you are struggling with high blood pressure, maybe you make that coffee a decaf, like have a little idea. Bring the caffeine down if you are caffeine sensitive. So really nice to have you here. I'm Dr. Z. Here's my website, simplefasting.com. I'm running a fasting-based medical practice in Wisconsin, and happy to answer any questions about that as we go along. Here's how I'm going to approach our brief time together here. I'm going to give you some facts outlining hypertension, high blood pressure, the scope of the problem. And then I'm going to go through this review on fasting physiology. Then I'm going to give you some perspectives from my clinical practice, some of the research that I did. And then I'm going to show you, there's a chapter in this book, Can Fasting Save Your Life, from Dr. Goldhamer, that is on high blood pressure. I'm going to share some thinking from that book with you. So, little disclaimer for this talk. It's an educational video, not hyping anything, and that is specifically saying, nobody come in here and say, Dr. Z says I don't have to take my medicine, I can just fast, blood pressure will go down. Okay, I'm not saying anything like that. And in fact, what I hope you take away from this video is how just significantly important it is to get our blood pressure into a better place. I'm not opposed to medicines. I've written thousands of prescriptions for blood pressure medicines and feel very good about it. Maybe it's the case that if you haven't been taking it seriously, that you need to get on a medicine that can help to take the pressure off additionally in the short term. And then you start doing the root work, and this is what we're missing so often in the system, the root work to try to fundamentally resolve the problem the best we can. That's what we're talking about today. And so I say, look at this final point. Information should be discussed with your medical team. See all my disclaimers in the description. I do have a medical provider resource if people are having trouble communicating with doctors. Not that that ever happens, but if you are having trouble finding language to communicate about these things, okay, that's something you can bring here in the comments. That is something, if you go to simplefasting.com, I have a medical provider resource. You know, I think we need to be having dialogue and discussion, especially about how natural processes can help get to the root level. That's what we're trying to do today. Okay, so we'll dive into some of this information. Throw questions and reflections in the chat. Maybe I see it live, especially we see it at the end. We'll have a nice discussion. And if you're coming through on the replay, nice to have you here too. Throw questions in the comments. We have a discussion across time. This I just took from the CDC fact sheet on high blood pressure. In 2003, the data, 644,000 deaths in the U.S. primary or contributing cause. So it is right in the mix with cardiovascular disease, right? We say heart health and vascular disease, the leading killer of people. And so high blood pressure is really in the mix as part of this. Nearly half of adults, this is in the U.S., nearly half of adults have high blood pressure. Yes. About 1 in 4 adults with high blood pressure has their blood pressure under control. Only 1 in 4, right? So that's something interesting, huh? Half of adults with uncontrolled high blood pressure have these readings over 140 over 90, 37 million people. So this is just giving us the scope of the problem, right? It's a huge part. And then this is interfacing, of course. This is just one facet, one interface of the broader metabolic challenges that we're having with weight and blood sugar and the health of the whole system. And of course, we want a holistic vision of health. We want everything better. And blood pressure is one of those things. So sometimes for, each individual person, maybe it's one thing that is kind of, for some person, the blood pressure pops up before the blood sugar or some other problem. So whatever it is, here we're focusing on the blood pressure. And here's some more information from the CDC, just helping you see the levels if you're not familiar with it. In the ideal state, and isn't this what we are wanting to go for? Blood pressure would be less than 120 over 80. And so if we are in yellow and red, and then there's multiple levels of red, okay, so. Here is just a graphic from the CDC about areas where damage from high blood pressure can come. And so it's just places where the blood flows, right? And especially the tiniest blood vessels in the body, the most sensitive to this. Tiny blood vessels in the brain, tiny blood vessels in the back of the eye leading to vision loss, tiny blood vessels feeding the heart, the actual blood that is helping the heart to function, tiny blood vessels making up the kidney, so chronic kidney disease, peripheral arterial disease, right? As we head further and further away in the system, arteries damaged, okay, and the whole system damaged from it. So we want to protect all these areas, right? So we take it very seriously. Say, I want to get way upstream of this. I don't want that chronic pressure on the blood vessels that is leading them to harden and get inflamed and have damage. All right, so here I'm going to hit with you, I think 7 things I put on here. 7 ways physiologically that fasting intervenes in the cycle of creating high blood pressure and help to take the pressure off. Just like a medication can take the pressure off. So think of a diuretic, right? As if we think of a diuretic that is lowering blood pressure, how does it do it? It is helping extra salt, extra sodium to flow out of the urine, takes water with it. And just like you let air out of the tire, we're letting some fluid out of the bloodstream, take the pressure off, help the blood pressure to go down. So when we know that mechanism, you say, well, here is a natural process that can do that. So here's point 1. When we are fasting, we're lowering our insulin levels, and this can lead to natriuresis. So natriuresis is a medical term, which means we're helping to get salt out of the body through the urine. And so there is a physiologic process in the body where insulin levels go up, and it promotes retention of many different things in the kidney. And this is a fascinating physiologic mechanism, which is in place so that while we're eating and nutrition is coming in, especially, that we don't just flush it out of the body, that we can hang on to it. Kidney has a very complex job. Try to hang on to all the good stuff, get all the bad stuff out. And so this mechanism exists where insulin is signaling food is here and we need to hang on to things, including sodium. And so in the ideal physiologic state, and especially when we're talking about blood sugar, right, our insulin should go up if we're having carbohydrates, and it should go back down basically to nothing when we are having a fasting state. In our society today, because we don't have a fasting state and we have diets that are high in processed food, we end up in a state where insulin levels are chronically high. And this can create a scenario where you can see where we're chronically signaling to the kidney to hang on to sodium, right? And then because that sodium is up, you see that's like an antidiuretic. It's keeping that sodium in. Water follows sodium, and it can drive up the blood pressure. So do you see that fasting can act like a diuretic medication, reducing insulin levels, help to get this natriuresis, this diuretic type of effect. You can see this effect. This is one of the things that happens when people start dieting, when of any kind. Certainly if you start fasting, people will see weight change quickly, right? Especially in the beginning. It was like, man, a couple pounds came off. A lot of times that is this effect. Whereas like we're shifting fluid in the body based on where the electrolytes are going and how the hormones are affecting the kidney function. Isn't that fascinating? Do you see the flow with that? And then you can see where that effect can be, okay, a short-term effect, but then also a long-term effect. And this is what we're trying to do with fasting, is to build, especially simple fasting, the process that I'm sharing, a habit or routine that is helping to bring these effects into the body over a long period of time. Just like we might bring a medication into the body, we take it every day to continue getting that effect. I was like, well, there's some amount of fasting, and we'll talk about how much might it be to get a natural effect that can lead to this. Okay. Let me know if I can explain these things any more clearly. Okay, weight loss. So when we are fasting, if we are trying to lose weight, especially if our body weight is over an ideal target, there are many factors. I can't lead them all out, but I just picked one. Weight loss lowers blood pressure through many mechanisms, but especially by taking the workload off of the heart just from having to perfuse, meaning the heart is squeezing to send the blood out through the body. And so part of what it's doing, it's generating force so that it can drive the flow all the way through the body. When there's more body to perfuse, right, it takes more force to do that. So as we reduce the body weight, we reduce the strain on the heart and take the pressure off, like literally help the blood pressure low. And there's many more ways that it helps also. But we're being simple here, okay? Okay, point number 3 of how fasting is getting in here, and I really love this one because this is getting into our mindset. A fasting state. They're saying a big thing. Okay, when we're fasting, we're trying to lose weight, perhaps, if we are. Okay, we say, are we getting less calories in a space? Yes, we get less calories by fasting. Can help a weight loss process. But the thing that I try to show, we are a mind and a body, and these things, they are the same. They're not even that we can think of them the same, like the mind is the body, and as wild as that seems, okay? When we open up a fasting space, not only do we start burning through calories, we can burn through hormones. We're resetting a hormone structure, and specifically, we can reset this sympathetic activation, meaning sympathetic system is that fight or flight. That's the adrenaline, crank things up. That is telling things, okay, maybe there is danger. Maybe things are not okay. Think of fasting like taking a deep breath for the body. Okay, literally we can take a deep breath and then we're taking a space from eating. And that is the reset. When we take a big deep breath, we can help that parasympathetic flow. Calm things down. The parasympathetic flow also activated during a fasting state, a voluntary, safe space. Everything is okay. Body is going into these cleansing and resetting cycles, autophagy, about resetting, cleansing, healing. That parasympathetic state, the vagal tone is bringing the pressure down hormonally and autonomically. All right, point 4, a little technical, SIRT1 proteins. We won't get into the whole chemical cascade, but these are mediators in the body that are activated through fasting that can directly lead to the production of nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide, if you're familiar, so this is like a nitrate medicine. So we take nitrates for different purposes, including things like isosorbide mononitrate, IMDUR. We have nitrate medicines that can lower blood pressure. By helping the arteries to relax. So there is a natural process in the body that can be stimulated by fasting that can lead to endogenous, meaning natural, nitric oxide production. And I mean, I just think that that is so beautiful. So you get into the fasting state. This is one of the reasons we see blood pressure going down in a fasting state, because the body is releasing chemicals, just like we can take chemicals into our body through pharmaceuticals. Here is a process. Body can make chemicals, release, help to take the pressure down. Couple more. Fasting has a direct effect on the RAAS system, which is renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And this is independent of the insulin effect that we are saying. This is leading to increased salt loss, and it's changing the hormonal properties of these systems. These are hormones that we're talking about. This effect is similar to the medicines like lisinopril or losartan that are getting into this space. So anything in that ACE or ARB class, and so we see we're building up multiple different areas where we have medications across classes that fasting can actually do these same physiologic things. So if you take an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin receptor blocker, well, you're getting right into this RAAS system to get this effect. Because amazingly, most people don't know kidneys actually do most of the controlling of blood pressure. It's complex. It's between heart, kidneys, brain, all have kind of voices in the chorus, but maybe kidney, the primary one. And so when we are opening up a fasting space, we're getting right into that space, just like some of these, most prescribed medications, which I think totally fascinating. And it's going to be even more fascinating when we get into some data just to see what this can do. Here is one that is very fascinating. I don't know if you have heard of this substance, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Okay, this is studied a lot, of course, in the brain as we are looking into cognitive health, long-term health issues with dementia, other sorts of things. But BDNF active in a number of different ways, including we have autonomic centers that are controlling part of that central control of blood pressure. Autonomic centers are like sending drive to the heart to like amp up the heart rate and contractility, like how hard is the heart squeezing. And in the fasting state, we can optimize BDNF levels, and that is leading to a calming of the central activation. So it's just fascinating as we're talking through it. I'm talking through for you all the different ways do you see physiologically how the body is controlling blood pressure from brain and heart and kidneys and blood vessels. And here I'm showing you mechanisms whereby fasting is having effects on all of these areas. And here's a final fascinating one, which is microbiome optimization. So we've talked in other sessions about the microbiome, and that like there's something that is so in the mix of our total health. We've talked about it from a mental health perspective, about how changes in gut microflora are changing different chemicals that can feed in through the enterochromaffin cells. It's just these cells in the body that are communicating about the digestive system to the brain, and then that are involved in production of different hormones. Integrate with mental health, digestive function, satiety, so many things. And so here is another area where microbiome, through production of short-chain fatty acids, that these things can directly have blood pressure lowering properties, which is so wild to think of, about the interaction between. I love that session we did, Everything Matters. Do you remember that? And so you get into a session like this and you start to see like, wow, like everything matters, when it's like, okay, what we eat is feeding into our microbiome. When we are not eating, that can be optimizing it also. And then how important that is to feed into something even like blood pressure. So I love that. Okay, I want to show you a little bit of research, and then just for fun, I could have picked, there's lots of different fasting research that has looked at blood pressure. We can dive it in. Let me know if people want to do deeper academic talk on it. But this is just my research study that I did at the university before I left. And I thought it'd be fun to talk a little more about it. So this intervention is the type of thing I really like to do, and the core things that I do and was studying in this paper was for diabetes, specifically helping people on insulin to use a fasting process safely in order to get off of insulin. And that is an incredible process. I've helped many, many people to do it, the type of thing that needs to be done with medical supervision, certainly. But this study was fascinating. We had 20 participants who had been on insulin for type 2 diabetes for an average of 10 years. 19 out of 20 people completed the fasting protocol, which was 18-6 for 6 months, and then paired with a very low carbohydrate diet. And so we can dive in a separate talk to talking about the insulin and the diabetes, and that's all in the mix. And I just thought I would talk about our little sub-analysis of this observational study, which is that people had significant improvement in their blood pressure over the course of 6 months. So I just took this table and I read our little commentary about it. Okay, so participants experienced statistically significant and clinically relevant improvements in both BMI and blood pressure. BMI dropped, this is on average, across the 19 people who finished, 34.5 at the beginning of the study to 30.5 by the end of the study. Average participant lost 26.5 pounds over 6 months. Okay. Participants also experienced improvement in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Average systolic pressure dropped from 134.5 to 124.6. And so that's taking us, remember the slide from the CDC, that's taking us from the red zone down into the yellow zone, just like in 6 months. So, and that's the average reading. And so within that average, there were people who did not have elevated blood pressure, and then there were people who had pretty elevated blood pressure. And so what was happening, nobody was dropped hypotensive. People who are normal stayed the same, and then people who are a lot more elevated came down. And so like the average reading was very good, but the benefits, even to some people on a sub-analysis, were even more profound, certainly. 3 participants discontinued antihypertensive medications during the study due to significantly improved readings. And this is the thing, like, so you say 19 people with type 2 diabetes, almost everybody on some kind of blood pressure medicine, because for type 2 diabetes, everybody on an ACE inhibitor or an angiotensin receptor blocker just for kidney protection, even from diabetes, even if people don't have high blood pressure. And so this wasn't a hypertension study, but we showed significant benefit from blood pressure and people able to stop medicines. And this is my experience. You start opening up some fasting space. This has been my experience in the clinic. You know, people have some reason to do it. A high blood pressure might not be the original thing. Someone comes in to lose weight. Someone comes in to try to help diabetes. Someone comes in because they're having some digestive problem. You say, I want to start opening up some fasting space for this. And then it's like sometimes, in my experience, it's about 30% of the time you see a significant improvement in blood pressure in the people who have it. And then we'll talk in more detail about that coming up. Okay, but I'd love to talk more about my study. We did so many interesting things in it. Okay, this book, Can Fasting Save Your Life? I have had this book recommended to me by independently many different people. So I said I finally got to like dig into it. This gentleman, Dr. Goldhamer, runs a clinic out in California, True North Health Center. I have met 2 people who have gone to that center, had a fantastic healing experience there. So just the title, very wonderful title, I say, you know, gets you thinking, asks you the question, can fasting save your life? I certainly answer that question, yes, based on my experience, but it's not saving your life like the little kid is wandering in the street and someone dives them out of the way of the car, or like your gallbladder went septic and the surgeon cut it out, okay, and then they saved your life in a very acute thing. The way, from my perspective, that fasting can save your life is chronically. It's like we have chronic disease, and from my perspective, fasting is a practice that is a chronic practice of health. We want chronic health to counteract a chronic disease, and if we can avoid a chronic disease, you know, we say that we might have died from, right? Cardiovascular disease is the leading killer of people. We say, well, if we can get way upstream, can we say that it saves your life? Okay. I think we should say yes, I think it can. But it's not as dramatic as, a firefighter running into a burning building and pulling the kid out, But it's just as real, in my opinion. But this is the life of an internist. I would tell you, an internist, we try to get way upstream, help people to stay healthy, and, you don't really see it. Someone's just healthy, they say nothing happened, But that's okay. All right, I'm going to take some excerpts from this book just so you get the idea of it. And then I'm going to take those thoughts and kind of mix them with my perspective. Because the type of fasting that they do at this place is not what I mainly do. It isn't really simple fasting, but I think it's fascinating. I've been spending the last month or so like really thinking about, okay, what is happening in an extended fasting space? What can we learn from that to bring it into the simple fasting space? Because simple fasting, what I define as fasting within a day, is something, it's just the very shallow end of the pool, and therefore it's more accessible to people. And say, how much benefit can we get out of little bits of fasting without having to go to a health center in California, or a health center in Wisconsin? I'm supervising some people with a process like this now, and I'm building tools to actually help people do it. But still, I don't consider it simple fasting. Okay, we'll talk about it. Listen to just this section. They say, another area, this is what they do, prolonged water-only fasting, multi-day fasting, that's what this book is about, holds tremendous life-saving potentials in the treatment of high blood pressure. Now, I say simple fasting too, okay? Just fasting in general. The whole thing is a spectrum. High blood pressure, extremely prevalent, increases the risk of many diseases, like we've said, yet common treatment options typically fall short. Like we've said, we showed the CDC data, even with all the drugs you could ever want, even when we're doing this paradigm, we're not getting things into a good, healthy place. Fasting, on the other hand, consistently normalizes blood pressure, even with people with severe hypertension. This is their process, consistently doing it. And what I'm going to show, I hope, over this process is I think what I'm experiencing in my clinic, where I am helping people on the early edges of fasting, like I said, it's about 30% of people who are doing things like 16-8, 18-6, or OMAD. That'll hit about 30% of people. These people fasting people out past 10 days, like medically supervised, very profound. A statement that they make later is basically all hypertension can be reversed through fasting if someone fasts long enough. And that might be quite mind-expandingly longer than, I'm typically dealing with. And so that's the big picture perspective that I'm seeing through reading this. I was like, I'm seeing like the very first edge of the spectrum where a lot of benefit can come. And then this is opening our mind to something bigger and more profound, but also, more complex, more detailed. Here's some more from the book. Maybe this is some we said in our stats. Among those who are diagnosed, more than half unable to adequately control their blood pressure with antihypertensive medications. Yeah, I would say that. It's an ongoing struggle in the clinic, and it can set up, difficult cycles, whereas like you start one medicine and then it could be two and it's not quite good. And then do you say 3, and then we got to, work up for resistant hypertension, go through the thing. I mean, you got to go through the process. But it can end up in this thing where then people are stressed coming into the clinic and they're like, oh my God, the doctor's going to try to put me on more meds. And then the more meds we get, the more side effects can happen. And so, you can get stuck into a really stressful spiral with it. And then stress, of course, is the opposite of what we outlined in that process. Amping up our sympathetic system drives blood pressure up. And so, these processes can be sometimes slightly self-defeating. You say, is there some other way we can get in there, right? Think of the modern medical system. Think of all the 7 points that I talked through of the ways that a fasting space can get physiologically in the middle of this system. And how many of the tens of millions of people who are taking medications have ever even heard of it? That here's a natural process. So like, we talk about lifestyle in medicine, and we tell people, yes, can you get more active? Does it help? Of course. We say choose the healthiest foods and do tons of dietary things. We could have a whole dietary hypertension talk in and of itself about the salt and the caffeine and the processed foods. But look at even where all of that is getting us, and how much, if fasting can come in, how much benefit could come to people. Really something to think about. They say here, although diet and lifestyle changes are encouraged as preventative strategies, the standard in U.S. medical care is to prescribe antihypertensive medications instead of dealing with the reasons that cause the high blood pressure in the first place. That is primarily the case. A lot of the process is like, we keep using medications without getting to the root level. And what I want to show people and inspire people and tell people is that there are root level interventions that are present. And there are places in the world and thinking that can help you with these things. It would be better, do you think, if it was possible? Like, do you believe it's possible? I say, here's some stuff that needs a lot more research. They have a whole foundation. They're doing a lot of research. It's very cool to look into. But a lot of research needs to be done. Do you think what if it was the case, we say, that some amount of fasting could significantly impact the blood pressure? And you say, well, is that really pleasant? Would it be nice to do? What if it could be, actually, if we open our mind and change it and realize that it could take the pressure off? Compared to the cycle of all the meds and all the side effects that aren't even always working. Okay. They say here, medications come with significant risk of multiple side effects, which increase with combination treatments. Yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen so much of that. Suggests that current treatment's inadequate, yes. And then this is the thing. Basically, they say everybody can get to a normal range with the right amount of fasting. If they are called to do it, I say, if they are called to do it. And they give some case examples here of patients who went in. And I showed some of these. Remember the talk we did that was from Look at What Fasting Did in 1963, where we were looking at prolonged fasting in the hospital. And there were case series that we already went through there where also they were seeing it, This is just something that is observed. As you help people to fast, the general observation is you see the blood pressure going down. It's like a dial. Some people are going to need more intensity than others with it. Here, I just thought this was an interesting section, how they ended this. Just thinking about the reality of the world and the medical system in its current form, and pharmaceutical companies, which we love and have difficulty with, because, of course, they make products that are fantastic. But also there are financial conflicts of interest that this comments on, which I think are interesting to think about. Bless anyone who is working for a pharmaceutical company, okay? Bless you, okay? But let's just have an open mind. Pharmaceutical companies are highly influential, and biomedical research has become dependent on the huge amounts of money spent in the hopes of finding compounds and pathways that lead to the development of expensive new drugs, which can be sold as treatments and retreatments for health problems that are expected to persist indefinitely. Conversely, prolonged water-only fasting, which I would also just include in my process, a simple fasting process that doesn't have to be a prolonged process, like just finding the right treatment for each patient or perspective. Okay. A holistic treatment that is relatively inexpensive, and when followed by a healthy diet and lifestyle, can resolve many health problems. This is what I've seen in my life. This is why I am trying to share these things. From this perspective, it is plain to see there's unfortunately little financial incentive to fund or conduct fasting-only research. Furthermore, the pharmaceutical medical model has created a culture that expects safety and efficacy to be proven with double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trials, which are considered the gold standard of evidence. However, fasting is inherently at odds with this framework because you cannot conduct a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial when water-only fasting is the experimental intervention. Therefore, many people say that no amount of fasting research will ever meet this burden of proof. They say, which I agree, is a purely methodological issue. Doesn't mean fasting is ineffective or less effective than other treatments, and this problem is not unique to fasting. Many alternative therapies or lifestyle processes are not considered in mainstream medicine because of this methodological limitation, which you see is influenced by the bias of the money and the pharmaceutical industry, unfortunately. The same methodological limitations would prevent strong conclusions on the benefits of physical activity or the harms of smoking or air pollution. So, while the gold standard is ideal for investigating drugs, it is inadequate to investigating lifestyle interventions. Yes, the solution is to conduct rigorous patient-centered research that uses randomization to compare sustained results of the entire intervention with the current standard of care, rather than a placebo control. Yeah, I totally agree. This is the sort of thing we need to be doing, and in my limited function, I tried to add just a little bit of that with the study that I showed, that just to me, the foundation of science is observation. And when you can see across history and in many different places and times, people are observing the incredible ability of a fasting process to help blood pressure and many other things. And it is actually just amazing to me that it is so difficult to have a conversation about this in the medical system, which should be about just having every open mind to every way that we can help human health and flourishing in every way. Here's their conclusion of their hypertension session. The potential of fasting to treat hypertension is substantiated by compelling evidence. No small feat given the ideological, methodological, and financial obstacles to conducting such research. They say, moreover, hypertension is just one disease. Like we said, it's just one part of the whole spectrum of dishealth we're experiencing. Yet, even if fasting were only ever established as a treatment for hypertension, forget everything else. Forget about weight loss. Forget about diabetes. Forget about every digestive problem and cancer and everything. It would still confer tremendous benefits given the rampant and destructive nature of the disease. However, we know that fasting is a whole-body intervention that has demonstrable ability to help obesity, other metabolic dysfunction, as well as the treatment of autoimmune disease and cancer as well. We've talked about that. Yeah, I love reading. It's nice to have a book where there's just leaning so much into these things. Like, we should need papers upon papers in the medical system about this. How do we tap into the core physiology of the body to find as much health and healing as we can possibly find within the body, and then from that point, say, we're not perfect, we can't do everything. Then, from that point, use every piece of medical technology and medication and things to get us, over the line in every way that we need. See, that's the way. Get all the fundamentals first. So, this is the question. As I was sitting here reflecting, on this talk, putting it together yesterday, thinking about, I'm trying to anticipate, like, what questions are people going to ask and have. Throw your question in the chat. I love to chat about it. But I was just thinking, people saying, okay, well, how much fasting do I have to do to get this effect? And this is why I put the little dial up here, just really to talk about it. Because this is the big thing with fasting. Like, the medical system likes one-size-fits-all policies. If you think about nutrition recommendations, people have like a stamp, like, oh, you are a woman, you need this many things. You are a man, you need this many calories. Like, okay, and you just think like how far away from reality that is. Like, I've worked with a college athlete who was trying to get on the U.S. rowing team and was eating like almost 7,000 calories a day and was not gaining weight, because he's just a super athlete. And then, I've worked with people, across the entire spectrum. And you say someone has dialed in a dietary process. They're on a diet. They're only eating 1,300 calories and they're not losing weight. And you say, you think this should not be possible, right? And so if you take that framework and you say, okay, diet is a lot more complex, like the human body is a lot more complex. We have tried to, pound a round peg into a square hole with these just one piece of advice for everybody. And that can't be the case. People want to say, oh, fasting is this, fasting is just 16/8 or it's this. The dial is showing, okay, my clinical experience, I've mainly supervised people doing, 16/8, 18/6, 1 meal a day eating or OMAD, and then sometimes fasting for a day. Kind of the pinnacle process of simple fasting to me is alternate daily fasting. It's like fasting in a day, and then we're eating. Fasting in a day, eating. And so that sort of process is ensuring that on regular intervals, we're getting solid nutrition and protein and electrolytes, and it keeps everything in a spectrum where we don't have to worry about issues like refeeding syndrome and all these things if someone is fasting for a very long time, because I want to keep everybody safe. And especially when we're talking in a public space, somebody is doing things. That's why I put every disclaimer, talk even about these low-level things, anything. Talk with your medical team, especially if you take any medications. But that's I've been in the shallow end of the pool on fasting, just trying to squeeze the most benefit from it as possible. And that's why I see I'd say 30% of people coming in with blood pressure issue we're hitting. And so I just want to say to somebody out there, what if you are in that non-2/3 where you say, I have high blood pressure, I lean into some 16/8, I lean into some OMAD, and it is not getting the effect that I want. What do you do? Okay, there are centers, and this is, this person is a resource. You can go there on their website. I am supervising people, but only in Wisconsin. So if you are in Wisconsin, I invite you to connect with me. And if you are looking for an economical way to do it, and it is too expensive to go to like the super center in California, shoot me an email, simplefasting.com. Talk to me. Do you want to come to Wisconsin? Do you want to be medically supervised? We can have a chat about it. I really have come to believe over the last month and a half of reading studies and the history and thinking about it, I've come to agree with the perspective of this book. I think it is very likely that the vast majority of blood pressure problems can be resolved through some amount of fasting. And in the future, I would love to prove it for myself and to see it. So people who want to work with me on it, and if you are in a very difficult place but you have an open mind to working on it, definitely connect with me and we see what can happen. So I will dive into the chat, share your thoughts. If you're been with me here on the replay too, throw your thoughts in the comments. Love to hear perspectives on this for sure. Here we are. All right. Maria is with us, says, I read this book, The Pleasure Trap, which is also very good. I haven't read it. Thank you for the suggestion. I added to my list. Beverly gave us a book recommendation the other day. Battlefield of the Mind, I got that on the list. I love collecting books, and maybe we bring some thinking from that at some point. But my stack of books of thinking, I've loved this process. I'm a big reader. I love to read. I love getting through all this stuff. And this process helping me really stay dialed in on getting the good thinking. Yeah, Queen of Heaven commenting, nice to have you here too. I hope you are doing well. The money is, money is a good thing. Money funds good things, and pharmaceutical companies are funding good things, and they're developing, new things. And so it's not like we don't want progress. But I feel like we are not striking the balance. Do you think that's fair to say? I don't think we have quite struck the perfect balance in our medical system of channeling the money in the ways that are really optimizing the balance between new technology and developments, and also the actual functional things that help people to do the very core human health things, of which fasting is one that can actually really help. Absolutely. And then it sounds like you're noticing that. You see the blood pressure being lower in the fasting space, and that is a common observation. And so, from a practical level, for someone trying to do it, then the idea is like, okay, this can be like a personal experiment, and of course work with your medical team too, and have monitoring. This is the benefit of being connected with the medical team and providers. Any medical clinic, you go in for a blood pressure check. We got technology now. You can monitor your own blood pressure, just like blood sugar, and you can see physiologically these effects in the body. And it's just interesting to me, even from the standpoint of physicians. I just encourage any doctors out there, if there are medical professionals coming through, are you intrigued by this? Would you like to talk about it? I love to grab even a virtual coffee and let's just talk about how do we bring conversations like this to our patients in ways. There's a lot of what this channel is. How do we create accessible information about fasting so that we can have more grounded and informed discussions about it, so that the benefits of it can just flow to people, and people can do it in a safe, thoughtful, informed way, is the thing that seems like we could do. From my perspective, at least from the perspective of a primary care doctor, I think this would be the very most high yield thing we could possibly do in medicine right now. If we were to radically change the structure of our health system, just to incorporate in a fundamental way fasting-based ideas, to realize this is getting to the core place of our health and metabolism, and that we can start running autophagy pathways, clean up the body, burn through blood sugar, reset insulin resistance, bring down blood pressure, limit our risk of vascular disease of all kinds. Wouldn't this be incredible? And oh, by the way, you can do it for free. Nothing to sell, no products. It's totally the antithesis of the standard sort of idea, which is huge amounts of money and hype, and everybody trying to sell things. It's what is it? We've kind of joked on the channel, is just nothing. I call, from a physician perspective, is just prescribed nothingness. We're just going to open up some space and realize that there's healing power and potential in the body for really great things to flourish in the body, and to realize, okay, we take a lot of synthetic drugs that the body can just make naturally. We have natural ability to have diuretics form in our body. And we can produce nitric oxide like nitrates, and we can have central autonomic effects that are just like beta blockers, and alpha blockers, because the body has chemicals and hormones that control all these processes that pharmaceuticals trying to do. How incredible is that? I just think it's incredible. I went to a fantastic medical school, University of Wisconsin Medical School. Nothing against it. I love it. I love everybody there. But I never learned, that really on a fundamental level in medical school. I learned, okay, that nitric oxide can enhance endothelial function. I knew that, but I didn't know it in a practical way, that we can create it and use it through natural processes to actually have clinically relevant results for patients. You know what I mean? As we need to translate the knowledge into functional ability to actually help people do it. In better and better ways. And that's the sort of thing, different studies, I look at different studies, and I was okay, even studies that have been thoughtful and look at fasting, they tell people to just do something. Okay, but how thoughtful are we being? And this is what I like the mindset. How much are we helping with the mindset? Because to me, mindset is key. Look at the session we did yesterday, mastering the past. It's one thing to talk about fasting as a process, but then as a health system to help people do it, there's a lot of the value I think I can bring to people if you want to come work with me to actually help people to do it. Marie says, I like the format, learned a lot, very happy to hear it. Be very interested to learn more about BDNF and autophagy. Yeah, let me write a note. Why don't we do it? We should do a talk like this, as we head into, mental health space, start to think about the intersection with dementia and cognitive dysfunction and all kinds of stuff like that. Really dig in. BDNF. I want to learn more than I know now also, and that will be great. And we could dive deeper on autophagy. My son was watching some of my stuff yesterday, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, that is just so interesting. Autophagy, he's like, you should really lean into that more. He's like, I think people would be more into that. Got to find the most accessible, understandable ways to talk about it. I think there is a way, there is a piece of language somewhere that I haven't quite cracked, that is like, that would help people to connect with it, I've said in the past, like, what if autophagy was a pill, because think of all the pills and supplements and things that we take for so many different purposes. Even that people are like, we don't even know if it really helps, but we'll do it anyway. Like, we take a multivitamin, does it help most people or not? Like, we don't really know, and some people helped with at least some of it. It's like people just like, well, there's 70 things in there, we'll just throw some stuff at the wall, and it's like, we just hope that it is helping, okay? So yeah, if you had a pill that could do what fasting does, and look at the list of things that we talked through, activate our sirtuin system and release nitric oxide to relax our blood vessels and just take the pressure off. Of course, people would take it. It'd be a blockbuster. But nothing you can take, nothing you can buy, something you have to do. It is a practice that you have to do, and it's a type of practice that is countercultural, like from the language that I've used on the channel, that this is a consumption culture. And across many domains, of course, we get out into society. It's keeping up with the Joneses. It's having, the flashy new stuff. Okay, and then just specifically in the food domain, it's the idea that has permeated our culture, I think, from the whole cycle of it, that we just have to keep consuming or actually we'll be unhealthy. And this is just a myth. It is like one of the core cultural myths that is in our society. And I think it is actually maybe one of the most damaging things. When you look at how the body is designed, like, look at the list that we went through. Can I get back to the list without wrecking our stream here? I bet I can. Let's go back and look at the list. Because the thought I'm thinking right now is too many buttons to click. Okay, look at these lists. We go through them. That, like, how insulin is intimately integrated into kidney function and controlling our salt levels that affects blood pressure. Who even knows that, And all the ways that having weight being normal leads to heart health, right? And that our fasting space is directly integrating with the parasympathetic-sympathetic switch that is leading to this space. And then to think that we have these sirtuin proteins that who even knows, has ever even heard of them, that can create nitric oxide and help our blood vessels relax when we're fasting, and then that fasting can get into the same space as an angiotensin receptor blocker and an ARB and affect this renin-angiotensin system, And we'll dive in more, that all this stuff, like, is this an accident? You know what I mean? Like, do you think this is just a coincidence that these things happen? Or is there actually deep and profound significance to it that that the way the body is working and meant to be, like Maria is saying, that actually the body can start to heal when we leave it alone. Like this is like, thank you for sharing that language. Yeah, like that is like what is so profound about it is like we think we know so much, and like we do. I mean, have we ever known more as in the human experience of like, scientifically, like we're at a pinnacle of knowledge, okay? But like some of the stuff is great knowledge and some of the stuff is not so great. Like they said in medical school to me, when was I there? 2005, 6, 7, 8. They're like, half of what we're teaching you is wrong. We just don't know what half. And they probably still say that because like that's just the progression of knowledge. And yeah, some of what I think we like know in our society is just a myth that gets kind of pseudo-scientificized, like people think we know that we have to consume all the time. Just from my perspective, what I've seen in my direct observation over my career in medicine is that it's just a total myth. And I've seen the complete opposite, that when we give space to the body, that the body actually knows like what to do with so many things, but it needs space. Both physically from food can bring healing to the body. Space in the mind can bring healing to the mind. And these things flow together in a virtuous cycle. That is the type of thing that we really want, especially as we get into hypertension space, right? Just think of stress. Think of the stress of society and the distraction industrial complex that is just hijacking our brain and keeping us like in some amped up state. Think what that's doing to like reverse that flow, and people always angry, algorithms pitting people against each other because it drives engagement. Not healthy. But you start giving the body space. We start creating barriers to protect ourselves from the negative influences. Like look what that's doing in the mind, helping to settle the mind. Do you see settling the mind? Parasympathetic flow, taking a breath. Do you see how it's directly related to the blood pressure? Have you gone to the clinic? Have you had your blood pressure taken? What does the nurse have you do? They have you sit there. They might have you sit just for a couple minutes first. They might have you do some deep breathing, just relax, right? Because like, bring the pressure down. Okay, it's how the body works. It is a physiology. So that's just giving us a mirror. Give the body space, give the mind space and the body space. Take the pressure off. This has been a beautiful session. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Continue to think about these things. Continue to come up with the questions. Appreciate the suggestions. I will do some thinking of it. It is my son's birthday today. I am taking my son on a road trip, and we are leaving today. I'll be on the road tomorrow. Before I leave here, I'm going to film you a little video with some thoughts that I've been having overnight. I'm going to post that as a premiere tomorrow. So no live session tomorrow, but there will be a video popping up on the channel for you, 8:30 tomorrow, with some thoughts for the weekend. Share your ongoing thoughts and reflections here on this space. We keep the hypertension discussion going, and then we bring in so many other good things. I will look forward to connecting with you live next week. Have a good day, everybody.